Chancellor George Osborne says his budget is a move to a higher wage, lower tax, lower welfare Britain.
But as critics say, the budget was a con, giving with one hand and taking with the other. I'm glad to say that George Osborne is finally there for us in Lancashire. Good morning, Chancellor. Can you hear us OK?
Yes, I can. Good morning.
Thanks for joining us this morning. It's good to see you. We want to start talking about the introduction that you created yesterday of the living wage. Living wage, of course, is something that we've been hearing a lot about by the Living Wage campaign for a long time. Essentially, it seems to be a raising of the minimum wage. Is that fair?
Well, it's a national living wage. It'll reach over £9 an hour by the end of this decade, and it's part of a new contract with the country which says to businesses you are going to have to pay higher wages, but you're going to get lower business taxes and a stable economy. It says to people you're going to get a decent paycheck, but we're going to have a welfare system our country can afford. And it says to the whole country, we're going to spend less, but we're going to have economic security. And I think that's a new settlement that the country will be happy with.
Which is a very positive way of selling it, of course. You've set it at £7.20, going up to £9 by 2020. The campaign called the living wage £7.65 outside of London, £9.15 in London. Your target for 2020 isn't even what the Living Wage campaign would want the living wage to be now. You've really sort of underset this, haven't you? This isn't a living wage at all. This is just a raising of the minimum wage. Why have you co-opted those words to describe it?
Well, this is a really big increase in the floor we put on people's wages, and what we've done is gone and used some work that was done for a think tank called the Resolution Foundation, which is, quite frankly, a think tank on the left of British politics, but they did a lot of work on this, and they thought if you set the living wage at this level, that would support family incomes, and I think that's a sustainable way to proceed, and it's been very welcome. But look, I think it's important for people to realise this doesn't sit by itself. It sits alongside lower taxes for people. Everyone going out to work watching this show will see their taxes come down and keep more of their income tax free. It means lower taxes for business. It means a welfare system that's more sustainable. If you don't do all of those things together, then it wouldn't work. That's why it is a new contract with the country.
Chancellor, is that £9 in 2020, is that guaranteed?
Well, that's what we want to see, and I'm absolutely determined.
In your speech yesterday, you said you've set that. You've said that you've set it at £9. We were looking at a clip earlier, but you're saying that actually it's not set. It's not guaranteed that you will get to £9.
Well, what we're doing is setting it at, to be technical on the show, 60% of median earnings. In other words, we've taken the earnings in the economy and say the floor should be 60% of the average, or the median. That's a very technical answer, but if you project it forwards in real cash for people, that's well over £9 by 2020. So we've got a good margin there, and I'm pretty determined it will be £9. Ultimately, it'll be a decision for ministers, for the government to set the rate, and I'm making a promise that I'm going to deliver, so it will be £9.
You mentioned our viewers, and you mentioned lots of our viewers that are working people that will be looking at this morning, and you're saying they'll be pleased that they're going to have more in their pockets at the end of the month, and it's going to be very positive for them. But of course, on the one hand, you're raising this minimum wage, you're calling it a living wage, but on the other hand, you're taking, because you're getting rid of tax credits and universal credits. One of our viewers, Andrew Joy, tweeted in saying, can you ask the Chancellor why working families who rely on tax credits should suffer? Because at the end of each month, we're going to be worse off because of the situation now. He would get a higher paid job if he could. They just aren't there.
Well, first of all, of course, the higher pay is going to be put in law. It's going to be, companies are going to have to pay it. Of course, they're also going to have their taxes cut, and I cut them yesterday in the budget. I cut taxes for small businesses. But what I'd say is we're not getting rid of tax credits, as you asked in your question. What we're doing is controlling the cost of these things, because everyone pays for these. They don't come out of nowhere, and the cost of tax credits has gone up and up and up. So we now spend £30 billion a year on these tax credits. So I've made some savings from them. But look, what I could say to your viewer is this: if you are a typical family and you're working full-time on the current national minimum wage, because of the national living wage and because of the welfare savings we've made, you will be better off. And for those who are working on salaries a bit higher than the current minimum wage, you'll also be better off, because there will be a ripple effect as wages rise. And some independent people who looked at the budget said that that would mean 6 million people seeing higher pay. So it is a new contract. Look, I'm absolutely clear. We are making savings in welfare. They're difficult decisions, but the country has to live within its means. But at the same time, we're making sure that people get higher wages. And I think that's a fair approach. And I think that's the new centre of British politics.
Okay.